Hello, and thank you for joining me today in the beautiful Ironbridge Gorge, where I'm going to be cycling from Ironbridge along National Cycle Route 45 all the way to Bridgnorth. For this ride today I've chosen my mountain bike, although this route is possible on a hybrid bike or a gravel type bike. I would recommend that you don't use a road bike on this though, as some of the sections can be a little muddy, especially in winter, and there's also quite a long gravel section with some chunky gravel which a road bike would struggle on. So we're starting the ride in Ironbridge on the north of this map and heading down to Bridgnorth on the south of this map. And as you can see by the route being marked in yellow, this is predominantly traffic free, so this makes a great route to take the family on. I'm starting the ride at the Ironbridge itself. This famous bridge was built in 1779 and was the first bridge in the world made of iron. This is so significant because it was the first use of iron as a structural material. Without this giant leap forward that was taken here, we wouldn't have all the amazing skyscrapers with their steel frames that we see around the world today. If you go to drive to Ironbridge to start your ride, there are a few pay and display car parks here, the closest one being just across the bridge from the town here, called Ironbridge Central. If you cycle from Bridgnorth and you're going to stop at Ironbridge for some refreshments, there are plenty of places to get some, and I definitely recommend a pasty from Ely's pork pie shop. As we get going on this ride, we head right over the famous bridge itself, and at the other side we go past the old toll booth, which is now a small museum. Once over the bridge, Route 45 takes a left through the car park, but I'm just going to take a small diversion and show you something on the road here. You can see the old rail tracks in the road here, where the Severn Valley line used to run through here, and it's a section of this old disused line that we're going to use today to go all the way down to Bridgnorth. Before I carry on Route 45 towards Bridgnorth, I'm actually going to take a right here and head towards Buildwas on what is now called the Severn Valley Way. This bit of cycle track only goes on for about half a mile, but you do get some great views across the valley when you can see through the trees. And also, if you look at this section of cycle path from the other side of the river, you can see the engineering that went into it, so it would be a waste not to be able to take advantage of it and ride it. The track comes to an abrupt end on the edge of Ironbridge Power Station, which has now been closed and has been decommissioned for the area to be redeveloped. I'm hopeful that this traffic-free cycling route can be extended through the area once this is done, and I was grateful to see that on the planning application, cycling routes are mentioned, so fingers crossed. So that's the diversion done, and time to get back to the car park next to the Ironbridge, which Route 45 runs through. Now this car park actually used to be the station at Ironbridge, and the giveaway is if you look across the road, the pub over there is called the station. Once you've crossed the car park, you'll see Route 45 heading off to the south by the side of the river, and there's the little blue sign there to let you know that you are on the right track. This is probably the worst surface of Route 45 that we're going to ride today. It does get quite muddy in the winter, and this is why I've said don't use a road bike. But it is lovely to cycle along here. As you can see, it's quite obviously an old railway line, and you do go under some bridges and over some bridges. And as you get closer to the area known as Jackfield, you will notice that the track does narrow somewhat. It's not long before you reach the end of this bit of cycle path, and it ends where the Severn Valley line used to cross this road. And as you can see, there's some tracks still here, or being put back in place, and also the crossing gates are still here. Apparently Jackfield Halt used to be just across the road, although I couldn't find any remains of it. From here, Route 45 does go along a small section of road, but the roads that we go on are really very quiet, and so there's nothing really to worry about. We make our way down them and past the Jackfield Tile Museum. And then not far past there we do rejoin again a traffic-free cycling route. Just look out for the little blue sign on the right and also the lovely Victorian looking sign on the left. A short way down this section of track you'll see an information board on the left, and it's worth pulling over to take a look at this. It talks about the subsidence in Ironbridge Gorge, and in particular this area of Jackfield, which in 1952 suffered a large landslip which destroyed 27 houses and actually reduced the width of the river by 15 metres. Back in 2014, major engineering works were taken out here to shore up the banks. They're actually worried that a further landslip may block the river completely, and you can imagine the havoc that that would cause upstream. As we carry on our journey from Jackfield towards the area of Coalport, we have again rejoined the old trackbed of the Severn Valley Railway. Now this section can become a little bit muddy, like the section coming out of Ironbridge, especially in winter, but it's not long before it takes a left and has a small deviation from the original route of the Severn Valley Railway. You can see here the bridge that the railway used to run under that we have to divert around. As we follow this small diversion, we come to the point in the ride where Route 55 meets Route 45. And if you want to watch my video on Route 55, I'll put a link on screen now. We next have a tiny little bit of road riding to get us back up to the old trackbed of the Severn Valley Railway. And we join it just after the old Coalport train station, which is now a private residence and so has been kept in wonderful condition. And the reason we couldn't go under the bridge earlier is because it would lead into the garden of this house. Also in the garden are some train carriages which have been converted into holiday lets, and it gives a wonderful idea of what things may have looked like when the railway was open. From Coalport station we have a concrete surface for a little while before we move on to the gravel, which continues all the way to the outskirts of Bridgnorth. You will see the occasional car on this track, as this is the only access that residents have, as there are no other roads into the area. But it is relatively quiet and you will see some lovely views as you make your way down the side of the River Severn towards Bridgnorth. About halfway to Bridgnorth we come across Linley train station, which, like Coalport station that we passed a little further back, is in very good condition because it is now a private residence. Now Linley station is in a very rural area, not the usual place that you'd find a train station, but the Severn Valley line runs through the Apley estate. And when it was being built, the owner insisted that this station was part of it to be able to allow the line to run through his land. So it was really only a personal station for the residents of the Apley estate, and as so, it was never very busy. And it was actually downgraded to a halt later on in its life. It was closed in 1963 along with the northern end of the Severn Valley line. And this was actually done pre-Beeching report, so this is one line and station closure that we can't blame on Dr. Beeching. As we move on from Linley station, if you look to your left you might just get a sight through the trees of the only bridge between Coalport and Bridgnorth that crosses the River Severn, and this was the bridge that the Apley estate had built to access Linley station. A little further down the track, if you look across the river, you'll get a great view of Apley Hall. This was owned by Thomas Whitmore when the railway was being built, and I've already mentioned that he insisted that Linley station was built for himself. And this was one of many conditions that he put on the railway being built through his land, as he was quite opposed to it. But a large sum of money did change his mind, and eventually when the railway was built, he actually quite enjoyed watching the trains and had a number of trees cut down so he could get a better view of them passing by. From Apley Hall, the gravel continues as we make our way south towards Bridgnorth. We go through this fairly substantial cutting before coming out on the side of the river on a rather beautiful stretch that runs right alongside the River Severn. As we get closer to Bridgnorth, you find that the landscape does open up a bit, and you find fields on either side of the track as it moves further away from the River Severn. As we get to the outskirts of Bridgnorth, we come to the end of the line, so to speak, or the end of the Severn Valley line that we're actually able to ride on the National Cycle Route 45. And it ends at this little gravel car park, which is the one that I would use if I was going to cycle from Bridgnorth up to Ironbridge in the opposite direction. At the end of the car park, you can see the route that the Severn Valley line took quite clearly still. But this does go into the Bridgnorth Golf Club, so it's not one that we can cycle down. So from here we have to take a right and go onto a very quiet road to make our way towards Bridgnorth. The road that we take takes us past Bridgnorth Golf Club. And the day that I filmed this was actually the day that lockdown officially ended and golf was able to start again. And so you can see that the car park is absolutely packed with golfers eager to get back on the course. So don't worry, it's never normally as busy as you are seeing it today. Now the golf club itself here on the right is a great place to stop for some refreshment if you've come from Ironbridge. You don't have to be a member to go in, and it does have some nice seating outside. Of course, there's also Bridgnorth where you can stop for some refreshment, but I find the golf club is great if you're with kids because it means that you don't have to ride on any busy roads. From here, Route 45 goes to the end of this road and takes a left up towards the centre of Bridgnorth. But I'm going to actually take a detour here and take a left before I get to the end up a road called Bramble Ridge. And once the road straightens out, we are again on the approximate route of the Severn Valley Railway as it came into Bridgnorth. And I want to take this route because I want to go have a look at the tunnel that the railway used to use to go under Bridgnorth Centre. When you get to the end of Bramble Ridge, you come into an area of open space. Now you can either take a right up the footpath and make your way to Bridgnorth Centre, or take a left and make your way to Bridgnorth Lowtown. And like I said, these are both footpaths, so you would have to push your bike. But I'm going to carry on straight along the route of the railway. And as we make our way down here, you can quite clearly see it was a railway as we go into quite a big cutting. And at the end, we'll come to the tunnel that the railway used to use. I actually bought my bike light with me. It's quite a powerful one, so I could stick my head through this little gap and stick my bike light in there and get a good look of how the tunnel is looking today. It doesn't actually look in bad condition, and it made me think how great it would be if one day Route 45 could actually run through this tunnel. How cool would that be? So after backtracking and making my way up the footpath, I've come to Bridgnorth Town Centre. Now this isn't officially on Route 45, but it's definitely worth a visit. It's a lovely historic market town. You can see the old market hall there in front of me. And it's a great place to get some refreshments. There's plenty of places to get something to eat and to drink here. I'm going to finish my ride at Bridgnorth train station. It only seems right as we started at the site of Ironbridge train station to finish at Bridgnorth station, both on the Severn Valley line. After making your way through Bridgnorth town centre, you'll find this bridge on the right, and it's the best way to access the station. Now the difference between this station and Ironbridge station where we started is not only that the building is still here, but this is still an active station on the Severn Valley Heritage Line, which runs from Bridgnorth down to Kidderminster. Now because the line is still active, Route 45 is not able to use it to make its way to Kidderminster, so it uses a lot more on-road sections, and it's nowhere near as flat as the section between Ironbridge and Bridgnorth. This got me thinking about the best use of old railway lines. Now no one would suggest that a successful heritage line like the Severn Valley Railway should be ripped up and turned into a cycle path. But I have seen some debate online about the reinstatement of old lines that are now cycle paths. Should they be reinstated and the cycle path got rid of if the need is there? What do you think? Please let me know in the comments because I find this a really difficult one. I'd like to think that there'd be some answer where both the cycle path could be kept and the line reinstated, but I know this wouldn't always be possible. As I cross the River Severn here in Bridgnorth Lowtown, please, if you've enjoyed the video, do subscribe to the channel, as it really does make a difference. I'm planning on making more videos like this, documenting National Cycle Network routes, and I'd really like you to join me for those. But thank you for watching, and again thank you for joining me, and take care.